30 seconds later, the front door opened, and a smiling Augustus appeared, a roller bag behind him. He wore a pressed sky blue button-down tucked into his jeans. A camel light dangled from his lips. My mom got out to say hi to him. He took the cigarette out momentarily and spoke in the confident voice to which I was accustomed. Always a pleasure to see you, ma'am. I watched them through the rearview mirror until Mom opened the trunk. Moments later, Augustus opened the door behind me and engaged in the complicated business of entering the backseat of a car with one leg. Do you want shotgun? I asked. Absolutely not, he said. And hello, Hazy Grace. Hi, I said. Okay? I asked. Okay, he said. Okay, I said. My mom got in and closed the car door. Next stop, Amsterdam, she announced, which was not quite true. The next stop was the airport parking lot, and then a bus took us to the terminal, and then an open-air electric car took us to the security line. The TSA guy at the front of the line was shouting about how our bags had better not contain explosives or firearms or anything liquid over 3 ounces. And I said to Augustus, observation, standing in line is a form of oppression. And he said, seriously, rather than be searched by hand, I chose to walk through the metal detector without my card or my tank or even the plastic nubbins in my nose. Walking through the X-ray machine marked the first time I'd taken a step without oxygen in some months, and it felt pretty amazing to walk unencumbered like that. Stepping across the Rubicon, the machine's silence acknowledging that I was, however briefly, a non-mentally-sized creature. I felt a bodily sovereignty that I can't really describe except to say that when I was a kid I used to have a really heavy backpack that I carried everywhere with all my books in it. And if I walked around with the backpack for long enough, when I took it off, I felt like I was floating. After about 10 seconds, my lungs felt like they were folding in upon themselves like flowers at dusk. I sat down on a gray bench just past the machine and tried to catch my breath. My cough was rattling drizzle, and I felt pretty miserable until I got the cannula back into place. Even then, it hurt. The pain was always there, pulling me inside of myself, demanding to be felt. It always felt like I was waking up from the pain when something in the world outside of me suddenly required my comment or attention. Mom was looking at me, concerned. She'd just said something. What had she just said? Then I remembered. She'd asked what was wrong. Nothing, I said. Amsterdam. She half shouted. I smiled. Amsterdam, I answered. She reached her hand down to me and pulled me up. We got to the gate an hour before our scheduled boarding time. Mrs. Lancaster, you're an impressively punctual person, Augustus said as he sat down next to me in the mostly empty gate area. Well, it helps that I'm not technically very busy, she said. You're plenty busy, I told her. Although it occurred to me that Mom's business was mostly me. There was also the business of being married to my dad. He was kind of clueless about, like, banking and hiring plumbers and cooking and doing things other than working for Morris Property, Inc. But it was mostly me. Her primary reason for living and my primary reason for living were awfully entangled. As the seats around the gate started to fill, Augustus said, I'm gonna get a hamburger before we leave. Can I get you anything? No, I said, but I really appreciate your refusal to give in to breakfasty social conventions. He tilted his head at me, confused. Hazel has developed an issue with Ghettoization of scrambled eggs, Mom said. It's embarrassing that we all just walk through life blindly accepting that scrambled eggs are fundamentally associated with mornings. I want to talk about this more, Augustus said, but I am starving. I'll be right back. When Augustus hadn't showed up after 20 minutes, I asked Mom if she thought something was wrong, and she looked up from her awful magazine only long enough to say, he probably just went to the bathroom or something. A gate agent came over and switched my oxygen container out with one provided by the airline. I was embarrassed to have this lady kneeling in front of me while everyone watched. So I texted Augustus while she did it. He didn't reply. Mom seemed unconcerned, but I was imagining all kinds of Amsterdam trip, ruining fate, arrest, injury, mental breakdown, and I felt like there was something non-cancerous wrong with my chest as the minutes ticked away. And just when the lady behind the ticket counter announced they were going to start pre-boarding people who might need a bit of extra time, and every single person in the gate area turned scarily to me, I saw Augustus fast limping toward us with a McDonald's bag in one hand, his backpack slung over his shoulder. Where were you? I asked. Line got super long, sir, he said, offering me a handout. I took it, and we walked side by side to the gate to pre-board.